Welcome to the Jay Franzi Show, your source for the latest news, reviews, and interviews, with insights you can't pay for and stories you've never heard.
Just so I could piss right next to Tom Petty.
Garth turned out to be the most loyal artist of all time.
Smoked weed with Willie.
That was the most surreal, tension moment.
So I knew I already had a strike against me.
Now, here's your host, Jay Franzi and Tiffany Mason.
And we are coming at you live. I am Jay Franzi, and with me tonight, the Margaret to my Hawkeye, my beautiful co-host, Miss Tiffany Mason.
Good evening, Jay.
If you are new to the show, this is your source for the latest news, reviews, and interviews. And if you would like to join in, comment, or fire off any questions, please head over to jfranzi.com. All right, my friend, tonight we have a very special guest with us. We actually have the Wizard of Whimsy. Hailing from the great state of Tennessee, we have Jay Bragg. Jay, my friend, thank you.
I wish I had some whimsical whistle to play for you. Thank you. It's good to be here.
We'll have to start all over now.
I can certainly go get it. I have a vast array of whimsical items here.
Nice. Well, I don't want to waste any time. We only have 4 hours tonight, so let's go ahead and just jump right into it.
It's like a Rogan interview?
Yeah, we do what we can.
Okay.
I want to know your take on what's going on down in Broadway these days.
I just hit an episode today of my series, View from Nashville. When I first moved into town, those were the gigs that I got. Started playing Broadway quite a bit. And yeah, I have a lot of things to say about Broadway, but I think it could be a really great thing it's like a great boot camp. But hearing the word on the street and talking to a lot of friends down there, and people are pretty stressed out with kind of the trends going on. People are losing gigs. Tourism is down. People who kind of put all their eggs in the basket of Lower Broadway kind of being a career more than just being gigs that they can play to supplement with other things that they do, are really kind of freaking out at the moment. It's an interesting time. There's a lot of changes down there, and I think it's a kind of a bellwether to perhaps what might be on the horizon for Nashville as development continues with different entertainment districts coming in. You have entertainment district, the Nashville Yards, which is nearing completion, and then the huge decade-long project on the East Bank. So there's going to be 2 tourist districts that are brand spanking new that are going to be pulling what is already, from what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing, a scene that is spread very thin with too many stages and not enough people to fill them and to earn a living for the people that do earn a living down there.
Well, you mentioned a couple of things in there I want to make sure we touch on. One, you said the pitfalls. So can you tell us what some of the pitfalls are?
I think on Lower Broadway, you kind of have everything you need to know about the entertainment business, from booking your own gigs, putting a band together, thinking on your feet, working a crowd. Working a crowd, like one of the hardest things to do is figuring out how to entertain a crowd that has no idea who you are. They're not there to see you. They're just there to be entertained. And if you can't do that, you're not going to keep your gig. You're not going to get any gigs. That's like kind of part and parcel of the job as a front person. For sidemen, it is Olympian level performance. I mean, you're playing 4 hours straight without a break. A lot of these guys are playing 2, 3, sometimes 4 a day, up to 12 hours or more without a break, with not much to eat, under conditions where, as the night progresses, you're dealing with more drunkenness, and there's all kinds of variables that come with this, that you really have to be on your feet. You have to kind of keep your wits about you. You're going to be disappointed multiple different ways. And it's a hustle. It is an absolute hustle. And if you can keep your composure and keep your endurance up, it can make you into, like I said, it's like a boot camp or, a Navy SEAL training of the entertainment industry. So, I mean, as much as I push back on the system of Broadway oftentimes being to the benefit of the bar owners way more than the musicians. And that is really one of my theses with my editorials. But I think if you can get down there, do a couple of years of service down there, you will come out of there a much better musician. You'll learn how to read charts. You'll learn how to play with musicians that you just met. You'll learn how to play songs that you don't even know, but you have to use your ears and really listen to the people on stage to get cues. It is a crash course in entertainment on all facets. So those are some of the really great things that you can learn down there.
Well, back in the day, and I mean, long before my time in Nashville, people would go to Broadway with the hope of being discovered.
Right.
And then my time in Nashville, people were going with the hopes of being discovered with no chance of being discovered.
Right.
And now I don't know what the hope is. I mean, are they still hoping to get discovered?
I mean, that is part of one of my main thesis is that it's not going to happen. The way that most people are going down there not to be discovered, or if they are misreading on where the culture is at this point, and where, your chances of getting discovered and climbing up some kind of a ladder within the industry, the ceiling is that gig. It's that bar that you're playing, and it's that crowd. It doesn't lead to bigger, better things. There once was a time that it did. But now I think actually it's the opposite. So if you're a serious artist and you go down there, and it's one thing to play a few gigs here and there, play it, Roberts is kind of one of these places that's kind of exempt from a lot of the things that I'm saying that are pitfalls, because that place, I think, never let go of its original intent and its integrity and preserving something remarkable about Nashville culture. But outside of that place, and maybe Layla's, there's a few other places. But I think in general, if you're an artist, a songwriter, and you go down there, and little by little, you are going to have to change who you are and develop in a way that optimizes for the tip jug, optimizes for whatever the audience wants to hear. And your job is to sell alcohol. Your entertainment is like the vehicle to sell alcohol, because that's how the bar makes money. And little by little, it reprograms your entire brain. So I know a lot of friends who, before they started playing on Lower Broadway, they were recording records of their own original material, going on tour, really doing the artist thing. And then they kind of took the quote unquote low hanging fruit, and they realized, man, this is a lot easier to, make a couple $100 for 4 hours, get to sleep in my own bed. I don't have to go on the road. Maybe I'll do this. This will help support my record. And then little by little, you get kind of more engulfed in that scene, doing more gigs, playing longer shifts, longer days, longer weeks. And then there becomes a point that you're exhausted to do that thing that you moved to Nashville to do, which was what makes you different. Wherever most of the musicians that come here were a big fish in a small pond, and they had something really special in their hometown. And coming to Nashville was this, this big leap of faith in their creative and professional life. And, you see that quickly dissolve because of the pressures of conforming to this system that the only intention is to move liquor sales, and it rewires your brain, and you just give up the plot. You lose the plot of your dream. Nobody moved to Nashville to sell to
push
covers
liquor
on Broadway for tips.
Right.
Yeah, nobody moved here for that. So I think with some of my thought leadership, I'm digging into some of the context, some of the conversations, some of the advice that I've gathered through 10 years in town, and kind of giving some ideas and starting some conversations that I wish I was privy to before I moved into town, because I would have probably made some different choices.
Well, I worked on the other side of the glass. I worked in the recording studios. I was an engineer and a producer for some time, and I got a chance to work with a lot of the big players. And the people on Broadway, it was never considered serious. It was considered more like the wedding band.
Right.
And to me, you might gain experience playing and learn how to control a crowd or learn how to win over a crowd, but you're not making any progress to what a solo artist would want to do, meeting the right people, getting in the studio, writing songs. So is there any other benefit to playing on Broadway outside of that experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can build a fan base all around the world. Now, there's a caveat to this, and I'll explain that. But because everybody's traveling into Nashville, tourists are coming from all around the world, they happen upon the bar that you're playing, you entertain them that night, they have a great time, they follow you on social media or get on your mailing list, and this has happened dozens of times with me, is they're like, hey, we're having, we have a venue in our town. We would love to host you at our place. And you can actually book tours based on these connections that you made with these people in a barroom setting. So that can really be good in building up your fan base of people that you would otherwise have never met, because they're coming to you and then they're going home and telling their friends, I saw this guy, Jay Bragg, playing at AJ's, and we got to get him to play the local bar here in whatever town it is. So that said, what they're expecting you to do is exactly what they saw you do on Lower Broadway, which is probably not the show that you are most proud of, that you really want to be touring. And, the life of getting in a van and going on the road is, it's really, really hard. So if you're going to do it, you certainly want to be delivering a product that really is you, the artist, not you, the liquor salesman, right?
No, that would make sense.
Mm-hmm. What was the tipping point for you where you were like, that's it, I can't keep this to myself anymore? I hear you saying, I want to share things that I wish somebody would have shared with me as I was coming to town. But what was it that you're like, okay, I'm just going to share unpopular opinion and see where it goes?
Yeah. So, a couple of things. I had a weekly, actually 3 times a week at one of the bars down there that I played every Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. And there, I played over 700 gigs at this one place.
Mm-hmm.
Started from the beginning. And actually, I'll just say it. It was AJ's Good Time Bar. Went on tour with Alan Jackson. Out of the deal, it was a great experience until there was some conversations where I was really speaking my mind with management about some things that I really believe in terms of the culture that was counter to, how he, his line of thinking. Some of it was political. This was during some of the COVID stuff as well, too. And I remember we got in a disagreement and come to find out, we really were not aligned politically. And I just magically started losing gigs. I lost the Sunday gig. I lost the Thursday gigs. I was down to the Saturday gig. Kept the Saturday gig, had legendary shows. And then played one Saturday and then got a call the next day saying, basically, we're going to make some changes and you don't have your gig anymore. And this was after 7 years of loyal service and really just doing a perfect record and just putting on one of the best shows there, helping the business from the ground up. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, it really, it pissed me off because I thought that they could have handled that with more grace.
Sure.
There's somebody who has really put their heart and soul into it, somebody who's gone on tour and really been an advocate and an ambassador for Alan and his music. I think the move there is to give a bit of an off ramp, and say, hey, we're going to try a few things, so that was like, and it was at that point that most of my bills were being paid from Broadway music, from Broadway shows, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, very unceremoniously and without kind of warning, I had that totally taken away, swept under my feet. And I said, wait a minute, I've kind of gotten myself in a bit of a trap by overinvesting into this one circuit. And it was at that point that I really started to diversify, and in a very big way. I said, I don't want to do things that anyone else are doing, because what a lot of that scene and a lot of other scenes here in Nashville, it's a very categorical town. Like, they put you in a certain category, and you kind of have to wave that flag of that category. And the versatility, the versatile artist, the full artist who does all these different things and brings, their unusual parts to the show, are oftentimes kind of, not always welcome. And so I said, the project that I take on now, I want to be the only person doing them. And I want them to come from my upbringing that really nobody else can do. So that's when I started New Vaudeville. How it came about was I had a very unfortunate situation happen to me that opened my eyes. And through the year of 2024, I had to really retool and figure out, what can I offer this city? What can I offer the entertainment world that, what is the lane that's not occupied that I'm distinctly equipped to do? And so I just went back to my history. My grandparents were vaudeville performers. Vaudeville is like this early form of American entertainment that was a variety show in the early 1900s, 1910, 1920, 1930. And they met in New York City, and they were vaudeville performers in that vaudeville circuit. And so my dad has done seasonal vaudeville shows throughout his life. And so I started something called New Vaudeville, which is kind of a reboot of this really old form of entertainment, of variety entertainment. That is like kind of the crown jewels of what I'm working on as a performer. But it is also one of these things that is very unique to who I am and to my story and to my lineage. But it's also something that I'm not sure I would have gotten to that point had I not had been knocked down by an unfortunate letting go, so to speak, from my bread and butter gig.
Are people believing you, or are you getting support from it? I know I've seen a little pushback, but also, are people thanking you?
Most people are thanking me for, I think what I'm saying things that people have been talking about for a very long time, and most most are not in a situation where they can very publicly go on record and say these things. I also have a journalism background. It's what I went to college for. So kind of investigative journalism is, it is part of what I love to do. And so I've kind of, used my 10 years of experience and kind of come up with a format where I take a subject. And Nashville is kind of like my laboratory. In the micro, it's about what's happening in Nashville, but in the macro, it speaks to a larger part of American culture right now and where we are. Oftentimes, Nashville is like the canary in the coal mine. Things that are happening here might suggest where things, what might be happening in, say, Los Angeles in 5 years or something like that, So in the micro, I'm examining some of the things that are going on here. Like I did one on just the affordability of town, which is really, really difficult. A lot of my friends, they're just stuck in the renting cycle. And even in my short 10 years of being in town, it's gotten a lot more expensive. I currently still rent, and affording a home, affording a home here is really challenging. So that's the micro, but the macro, this is the talk of the nation, the affordability crisis. So a lot of the viewers that are watching my View from Nashville are not even music adjacent people. They're just culturally aware people, because I'm speaking to something that we all feel in different parts of the culture. I'm just using the example of the music industry in Nashville to kind of prove a larger point, or not even prove it, but just to ask the right questions and spark some certain debates. I really did not expect these episodes to find such an audience, but I'm interested in who's viewing them, and it is people from all over the place. That the algorithm is feeding my pieces to a lot of people who do not know me. I'm on episode 10, and I've stacked up probably, well over 200,000 views of this brand new thing, probably 2,000 new followers on Instagram. And what's going on is the algorithm is just feeding it to people, and they're sharing it and resharing it. And I think what it is that right now, again, in the macro, people are just like so sick of being lied to, and there's a lot of grifting going on, and a lot of dishonesty, and people lying and pandering. And I think people are so sick of it, and they're really checked out of like mainstream media. They're just not believing it. They're not buying it. They think there's an agenda there. So the culture people are looking for voices that seem to be honest, that seem to not have an agenda, that seem not to be doing it for, say, the attention, rather than just informational, like informing, trying to learn and understand the culture better. People are really hungry for truthful voices. And the data backs that up of what people are listening to right now. Podcasts are more listened to than music at this point. Podcasts have superseded music in terms of what people are listening to. And that tells me that, I hate that, actually. I'm a musician. I love music. I listen to music every day. I make music. My whole life has been about making music, but the numbers don't lie. And I think people are looking for honest voices that they can believe in, and that can help them make sense of a very complicated and turbulent culture that we're living in.
One of the things you keep going back to is the honesty and how you're perceived with your opinions. So we talk about the Nashville culture, but do you think it's the culture of New England that you bring down that allows you to be honest in a southern town?
Ding, 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 ding. Yes, sir. Absolutely, man. I'm used to, as you would know, like people in New England really, some might say we're abrasive, and there's probably some truth to that, but we really don't sugarcoat it. We kind of come right out and say exactly how we feel. I think I would rather be honest and have you say, well, screw you, than kind of sugarcoat it and mince my words. The mincing of the words, kind of keeping the peace on the surface, is much more baked into Southern culture than what I'm used to.
So one of the things I'm curious about is Music Row is almost non-existent any longer. It's becoming high rises and condos and so on. So what do you think the industry itself is going to be like? Not just the tourist areas, but the industry itself.
Well, I think the industry is struggling to mint, new stars. I mean, the old paradigm is dead, where you could have radio prop up your next star that you're kind of lining up to be part of your cast of that era. So, I think a lot of the industry, the labels are scratching their head because the old playbook just doesn't work anymore. So they're looking to TikTok, and they're looking, who's breaking on social media. Like you probably can't even get a meeting with a record label without going viral on TikTok or social media first. Like that is kind of, that's a prerequisite. So I think it's more of a bottom up than top down operation. Whereas before, the big dogs controlled everything. And if you were lucky enough to get into that system, you were golden. And it was a monoculture because they pushed out everything to radio. And we were all reading from the same book. We were all listening to the same thing. There was only, if you're into country music, there's a couple of country stations, maybe in your town, probably one. And so you knew all the records that are coming out. Now that's completely fractured, where, we're in a playlist culture. Country music, the whole debate about, what's country and what's not. People still love to debate that question. Is Morgan Wallen, that's not country, or this and that and the next thing. I think that is a fruitless conversation. It really, who's to say? I mean, country music is whatever fans of the genre are listening to at that time, but the industry is just shrinking in general from what I can tell. Like you said, Music Row is now residential. It's actually going back. It used to be residential before it was Music Row. And now you go down there and it's more homes again.
We talk about record labels a lot on the show, and we talk about them being more in the form of a bank. So record labels are there to give money and to give assistance. And I mean, I don't think development is 100% dead from a record label. I think it's getting pretty close, but I don't think it's 100% dead. But I think the majority purpose of a record label these days is they're a bank and they provide a loan. So like you said, they looked at TikTok for somebody who already has a following, so that way they can capitalize on that following. They can give that person a loan. But the problem I see with doing that is that person doesn't need the loan at that point.
Right. So
can you talk about that for a little bit?
To your point, Jay, is if you have a following on, if you have multi-million, followers and views on your TikTok for your music, you really, you own the car. It's like you have the leverage, and you really don't even need the labels anymore. I remember, wasn't long ago, like people would say, are you signed? Like that was the mark of success. Are you signed to a label? And now, more often, it's like getting signed to a label is oftentimes, it can actually stifle your career because they're not, quite ready. They don't know quite what to do with you. And they also, you have a bit of a chokehold on what you can and cannot do, the work you can and cannot take. So, it's never been, and I think it's exciting. I think it's never been a better time to be an independent artist and to really have your hands firmly on the grip of your career and harness it and curate it in the way that feels true to yourself. And you don't need the big bank loan from the label.
Well, I agree, and I think if you take that big bank loan, you're bound to now go bankrupt because you're not making enough money to support yourself.
Also, too, and you probably know stories like this, Jay, is like, say you don't do great, the label drops you. Now you're in a situation, this is demoralizing to some people. Some people never recover from that. They have to they have to take such a step back. They were, once, on a tour bus and playing sold out shows, and now they're picking up scraps at, Joey Bag of Donuts Bar and Grill, so it's man, it's a hard industry, but it's better to, I think, that incremental growth. Think of it as the long game, incremental. Each day, each week, each month, you're just kind of inching a little bit closer to, to where you want to be. But you have to know where you want to go. You have to have the vision of what is success, what a success looks like, and that's different from every individual. Has a different definition of what success is.
I think, too, that there's a chance that as an independent artist, is a good chance that you're making more money than you would be making working for a label, and that you could actually make a living. I don't know, have you ever heard of the band Circe?
I have heard of the name, yeah.
They're from upstate New York, and it's a duo now. And that duo, husband and wife duo, they travel playing acoustic shows, and they travel all around the country, and they're gone for months and months at a time. And they make much more money touring on their own and doing everything themselves than they ever would having a record deal. So I think
I believe it.
There's definitely that opportunity for independent artists to make a living. It might not be playing in front of, arena crowds and doing sold out shows like that, but you're still making more money than those people playing the arena crowds. So it's a trade-off. It's like, what's more important to you?
Yeah. And low overhead, and honestly, just simplicity. I think one of the keys to happiness is if you can simplify your life, you're much more bound to sleep better at night. I think, so there's a lot of complexities to my fiance, she's in the music business on the music management side of things, so she sees a lot of the financial side of these artists, and it is very, very, very complex. And there's a lot of stress involved, and you have big overhead like that. There's a lot to handle at once, and you have to have a team to do it, and that costs a lot of money. The best thing you can do is figure out how to do all these things on your own, so that at a point where it really does start to scale, you can at least be a good delegator and oversee the management of your own career, having done it yourself, rather than the other way where you kind of don't know anything, and then you're more malleable to the people that you've signed on with, that they can kind of manipulate you, not what would be good for the longevity of your career, but oftentimes what will be good for the short-term exploitation of you for themselves, and then send you out to dry. I mean, this happens in the country music industry a lot, and especially amongst women. It can be a pretty sad tale.
Well, I saw one of your editorials about endorsement deals, which I thought was kind of a unique take. Can you talk to us about your feeling on endorsement deals?
Yeah, I think, there's several different kinds of endorsement deals, and I think some of them can really benefit you. If it's a product that you use, that it feels aligned with who you are. The thing that we're trying to do as artists is build trust with our audience. That's the most important thing. And to build trust, you have to be somebody of integrity and character. And again, we're seeing so many people that are void of integrity in our culture, that are just doing whatever it takes for personal enrichment. So it takes, decades to build up that trust. It only takes one dumb endorsement deal to completely lose it. And I use the example of Luke Bryan. He is at this point the poster boy of taking endorsement deals that are really, truly not aligned with what his brand, or where his brand started out. Now he's doing Waymo stuff. I he'll probably be on a Cialis commercial tomorrow or something, but actually that might be on brand for him.
I was going to say, you don't know.
He's getting up there in age.
I'm reaching for buttons now.
No, but I think, so I had Suno approach me and offer me an endorsement. And I didn't think for a second that I was going to take it, because it is not aligned with my brand. Is all about, to beat the algorithm, to beat AI, you have to be, an absolute individual that is unpredictable, that is completely unique, one of one. And to align myself with a company that is making all of music to the algorithm and predictable and pattern recognition, like that would have been, I would have completely lost my audience. I would have lost my credibility. I would have had to kick my own ass. That's just not, it's not what, you have to practice what you preach.
Well, on that note though,
Yeah.
What are your feelings about the writers in Nashville using Suno to put their songs together?
I did a whole piece on this one too. Country music was, of all the popular genres, AI is being used the most in the country music genre, and both in terms of production and writing. And I think it's no surprise, because it's the most formulaic of the genres. Have you ever heard the Bo Burnham parody Pandering? You should check it out. But it basically, it just kind of lists exactly what you have to put together to make a country song. And, some of it is ridiculous, but a lot of it rings true. And, when you have a genre that is really kind of systemized and standardized and made everything into a kind of a formula as your product, well, here comes AI, which is, what it does is pattern recognition. So country music, it was primed to be disrupted, or primed to be integrated with AI, because that's what AI does. It's pattern recognition.
Right. So Suno is great at recognizing the pattern and putting these things together. But what about the efficacy of the writers using it to craft their lyrics, or then the producers who are using it to put maybe an extra fiddle part on a song rather than hiring that musician?
Yeah, it sucks. I think it really, it's putting musicians out of work, people who have real talent and studied their whole entire life to have those gigs and to do those sessions. It's cheating in a lot of ways. So I have a Suno account, and what I've done with it is I've fed in a few full songs and had it arrange certain things for like horn sections, like how would the song sound with a full horn section? Because I'm getting ready to do a swing project, and so that it helps. That's our next new vaudeville is swinging in New Vaudeville, which is from the 3rd of July. Yeah, so as I'm doing my kind of arrangement work, it's nice to be able to hear what one of my compositions would sound with a horn section behind it. And that can help inform who I hire for the session and how we perform these certain songs. I think that is a good way of using it. You're just using it as a tool to produce something that's very much 100% a human delivered product, right? But if you're just saying, write a country song, about peanut allergies or something like that, and it'll spit you out something, and it's short circuiting the whole process. But I don't know. I really don't know. The cat's out of the bag. People are gonna use it. The cat's was out of the bag with auto tune. and people were using that. Everybody was up in arms about auto-tune, and now, it's just part of the game for a lot of pop artists to use that.
Well, in Nashville, you had all these songwriters who, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds
Right.
of songwriters. They're not all writing hits. They're just all writing
Right.
songs.
Album cuts and
Right.
stuff.
And
Yeah.
they're hoping to get something.
Right.
But with Suno, they can craft a hit pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the difference is you're talking about from a songwriter's point of view.
Right.
You sit down with a tool, you can use their multi-track version, you can put things in, you can layer things, you get the ideas. But you're creating the chord changes, you're creating the lyrics, you're
Right.
creating the song. I think the writers these days are not doing that. They're using ChatGPT or whatever else
Right.
to help them do the lyrics, and then they feed it into Suno, and they just press go, and it comes out with what sounds like a hit song.
Is it really going to resonate is the question. I mean, some of it does. And my dad was very fooled by this AI artist. I mean, I told him, I said, Dad, this is an AI artist. He's like, no, I saw a video of him on America's Got Talent.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
This old guy,
It was
right?
an amazing song.
Yeah.
It was making people cry.
Well, yeah, that's what my dad says. I mean, everybody in the audience was crying. Simon Cowell was tearing up, and I'm like, Dad, it's AI. All of that was AI, and his mind was just blown. He couldn't believe it. I had to send him an article, but he's like, I don't know how I feel about this because the song
Moved them.
really touched my heart, right? So I don't know how I feel about that. I don't like it, but if it moved him in a way, like he told me when he first heard it, he's like, Jay, I want you to play the song at my funeral. I mean, that's an important piece, right? So that's a hard thing to wrestle with as a songwriter.
I used to work in Nashville with songwriters, and we would craft songs, and we'd work on them for hours. With Suno, it's done in seconds, not even minutes.
I know. It's unbelievable.
It's absolutely insane, and it sounds good. I mean, you can't argue with the quality that's coming out of it.
It's one objective is like listenability. So they're using all the tricks of what's the most listenable, hooky thing you could possibly do. And, it's a powerful piece of technology, massively disruptive. I feel for especially guys who made a living recording demos in this town. I mean, there is zero work for them now.
Which is insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of people are it's disrupting, their livelihoods, and that's a drag. But also, streaming disrupted the CD, and the DVD disrupted VHS, and
But none of that put people out of work.
No, but AI is going to put people out of work like we've never seen before.
Well, I think it's crazy when writers are showing up to A-level sessions in Nashville with Suno tracks and saying, here's my work tape.
Yeah, I mean, and even artists, there was Kenny Chesney went into the studio with a Suno recording, and the whole session was trying to replicate exactly these sounds.
That's because the writer gets so used to hearing the Suno version, they don't want to be open-minded when they go in the studio anymore.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
One of the things I just kind of on a funny side note wanted to bring up is you're always looking very dapper. So is that to go with the Vaudeville theme? Is that just who you are? Are you wishing you hadn't done that and you just want to show up in a hoodie now?
No, so all right, a couple of things. I was wearing a 3-piece suit when I was 5 years old. I'm singing Frank Sinatra songs for my friends' parents. So I was always a really kind of like dapper theatrical kid.
Yeah.
But, I also, somebody once said, you always got to look better than your audience in terms of your attire. And I've always adhered to that rule. So I always try to look my best. I always try to look unique and just, I come from a lineage of tailors as well, too, from Italy. And so I grew up with like the gentleman always looking nice and dressing up well. But, this year in January, I said, I feel more confident when I'm in a suit and I get more accomplished. So I said, because most of my mornings are spent here after I get my morning chores done. Then I do my office hours, my bookings, my writing. And after I walk the dog and make my coffee, I put on a suit regardless. Like I could be, I'm not going anywhere, just working at home, and I get more accomplished. There's actually a really fascinating study where they took doctors and they were practicing on a dummy, doing surgery on a dummy, okay? But they were recording the nuances of how well they did. And one set was dressed in, bum around clothes, hoodies and whatnot. And then the others was dressed in surgical lab outfits. And the ones in the surgical lab outfits actually performed quite a bit better on those surgeries. So there really is something neurological about kind of dressing for success. But for me, so it's, part of it is that, but part of it is just like kind of an homage to my vaudevillian roots.
Sure.
And I have a nice collection of suits. So.
Well, you're always looking sharp.
Well, thank you so much.
You do look sharp.
I'm sorry, I'm bumming tonight. I just have this lousy shirt.
I'd fire you if we had the right button. All right, sir. Well, we've reached the top of the hour, but before we let you go, we'd like to give you an opportunity to thank somebody who's supported you along the way or may work behind the scenes. Is there anybody that you'd like to thank?
Oh, yes. I would love to thank my father, who really taught me everything I know about not only the music business and being an entertainer, but also just being a man and somebody who lives their life in service of others. And my dad is in his mid-80s, and he still performs 3 times a week in nursing homes down in Tampa. He still has the fire. He's still learning new material all the time and tweaking his set list and working on his seasonal shows. Cancer survivor. He always makes it to a lot of our new vaudeville shows, but also just going to his nursing home gigs. A quick story, when he got cancer, and he's survived cancer at this point. He's cancer free, but there was a point that we didn't know. And I said, Dad, how can I carry on your legacy? And he said, I need you to pick up he calls it a ministry with senior citizens. And so he says, I want you to bring your music to seniors and lift their spirits because they really need it. And that's when I started volunteering for hospice care patients, which I still do.
Which is awesome.
And that kind of really changed doing hospice care volunteer work and bringing my music to those folks on their last chapter. It was a life-changing experience and kind of re-informed what it is that I do and why I do it. Really the why, like, why am I doing this? And it's more like the empathy of making dreams come true for the people in your audience, uplifting them, making them more joyful, more happy, more together, feeling in more community. That's ultimately the job, that my vocation, the most important part of my work. And I get that from my dad. So he's who I'd like to thank.
There you go. Couldn't have picked a better thing to end on. All right, folks. Well, we have done it. We've reached the top of the hour, which does mean we have reached the end of the show. And if you've enjoyed the show, please tell a friend. And Miss Tiffany, if you have not,
Tell two.
Tell two. You can reach out to both of us. You can reach out to all 3 of us over at jfrenzy.com. We will be happy to keep this and any other conversation going. Jay, my friend, we cannot thank you enough for being here. It's been an absolute
Put my Red Sox hat on. Go Sox.
It's about time. You're about to get kicked off for good. Sir, we would like to leave the final words to you.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And I really, really enjoyed our conversation. Thanks for doing what you guys are doing and just asking the questions and having these conversations. This is the most important thing. It's just having these conversations. This is something that AI is never going to be able to do. This is exactly what we're doing. So we're beating the algorithm. So,
All right, folks. On that note,
thank you, guys.
have a good night.
This episode has been brought to you by VR Knives, your source for 100% custom knives made by a true rock star. So, if you're in the market for a new piece of art, reach out to VR Knives. 407-421-5528. 407-421-5528.